Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to do, as you can see, the name of the chapter is Jainism and Buddhism. And from this chapter, also, you don't have the whole chapter for your exams, you only have portions. So, just note it down as per the syllabus, as per the scope. You have the sources, okay? You have the sources of the Angas, Tripitakas, and the Jatakas, which are the religious books of the Jainism and the Buddhism religion. And along with that, you just have the doctrines of Jainism and Buddhism and the reasons, the causes which actually led to the rise of these two religions in the 6th century BC. Okay, so these are the three portions which you have in your exams. Now, so as you can see over here, this section B, history part, chapter number 3, Jainism and Buddhism. These are the sources. This I am just showing it to you so that you can form an idea that which portions are there in your syllabus. So you don't have to study the others, or the video discussion will also not be concerned about the other parts. Okay, let's start off. Acha. First before we go into these religious texts and all, let us just discuss what actually led to the rise of the Jainism and Buddhism religion during the 6th century BC. Now, in the previous chapter, we have come across that during the later Vedic period, the rituals were becoming very complex. Okay, the caste system was becoming very rigid, and there were caste system based on birth, right? So people started looking down upon the others who were having a very lower birth. Okay, by probably if people are born in the family of shudras, or the who were considered to be untouchables and all, the lower caste of the society, so they were very rigid caste systems. Now all these things were gradually becoming Hinduism a very complex religion. Okay, so this was one of the reason. First is complication and ritualism in Hinduism. As you can see, before Buddhism and Jainism came into the picture, the Hinduism culture, the Hinduism religion was becoming so rigid, it was becoming so complex that people was not satisfied with the needs of the common masses. Hence, they thought to go for a simple faith. They started opting for a simple faith, and where there will be no complications or ritualism. So, this was one of the reasons. Second is excess of animal sacrifice. Now, in the beginning, the Aryans seldom took meat, but now in the 6th century BC, animal sacrifice was becoming very common, because in the different yagyas and different religious sacrifices, so many animals were being slaughtered, were being sacrificed, that the common people did not like the bloodshed in this religion much more. So that is why it also actually created the religion being formed into an expensive religion, because performing so many yagyas was considered to be the sacred duty of every householder for the benefit of the house. Now everyone could not possibly afford to perform such expensive sacrifices, so they revolted against their own religion. Next, predominance of the priesthood. The Varna decided that society generated social tensions. Why? Varna was related to the caste system, where the Brahmins were given the highest caste of the society. They were considered to be the highest caste. Now, the Kshatriyas, who belonged to the warrior class, they strongly reacted against this ritual domination of the Brahmanas. The Kshatriyas' reaction against the domination of the priestly class claimed various privileges. Now, since the Brahmins were the highest of all the classes, the Brahmins were considered, just because they were worshipping God, they considered themselves to be superior, which was not accepted by the other caste of the society, and especially the Kshatriyas, who had no inclination to bow down before anyone, because they belonged to the warrior class, and for them self-esteem was the most. So Both Gautam Buddha and Vardhamana Mahavira belonged to the Kshatriya class, and they both disputed the authority of the Brahmins. So that was considered to be acceptable by the common masses. Next, the difficult language. The Vedic religion was so full of complications and rigidity, and moreover, the language in which it was written was Sanskrit, okay, which was not understandable by the common masses. So, for that reason, it was very difficult for the common masses to recite the hymns and mantras during the yagyas or in normal times. So, they tried to look for a literature which would be easily understandable by them. And as we said, that the caste system was also becoming very rigid, and men belonging to high caste started hating the people who belong to the low caste, especially the, as I said, especially the Shudras. So this class distinction was gradually becoming so prominent that there came the need to begin a brotherly feeling between the different common people. So this also led to the beginning of this and acceptance of the lower classes. Okay, so this was one of the reasons. And now we come to efforts of the intellectuals. This class distinction, class hatred, ritualism and expensive sacrifices was actually taking away the essence of Vedic literature. So now the people, such principles like Mahavira and Buddha, they became great teachers, were two such great teachers, so enlightened ones, that they were easily able to impress the masses. They will teach the people regarding an easy way to understand the philosophy of life. Hence these two religions became very common, became very acceptable in during this period. Okay, so these are all the reasons why people started shirking Hinduism and started to follow the simpler religion or the simpler sects, which were the Jainism and the Buddhism. Okay, so before we begin with Jainism, now the main source of Jainism was the Angas. Okay, Angas are the religious texts, as you can see over here. These portions which I am discussing, only those portions only you will have to study. Okay, so as you can see, these Angas are the religious texts of the Jains, of the which was written in the Prakrit language, and most of the information we get from the Jainism is from the Angas only. Okay, so there are also the other texts which were written in Apabhransa, but they were written in Sanskrit, but mostly the Angas which were written in the Prakrit language were the easiest sources of information for the Jainism. Okay, so let's come to the doctrines of Jainism. Now, doctrines of Jainism, three Ratnas. According to Mahavira, the ultimate goal of man is the attainment of moksha or freedom from worldly bondage. Now, how to get this moksha? That is by following the three Ratnas or the three jewels, that is right faith, right knowledge and right conduct. These three Ratnas inspire true Jain to have faith in the 24 Tirthankaras, to acquire knowledge from the sermons and lead a good life. And the second doctrine of Jainism is karma. The Jains believe in the theory of karma, so they conceptualize that good deeds can liberate a man from the cycle of life and death. So these are the very two simple doctrines of Jainism. Okay, so from Jainism we only have this much. Then let us move into Buddhism. So again, the main two sources of Buddhism are the two religious texts. The two religious texts of the Buddhism are the Tripitakas and the Jatakas. Okay, the Tripitakas are the most important religious literature of the Buddhists, and they are written in the Pali language, which was just a couple of centuries after Buddha. These Tripitakas consist of three books, that is Vinaya Pitaka, Sutta Pitaka and Abhidhamma Pitaka. The first one contains the rules and regulations for daily living of the monks and nuns. The second contains the Buddhist teachings, moral principles and the sayings of the Buddha. And Abhidhamma Pitaka is an interpretation of the philosophical doctrines contained in the Sutta Pitaka. So these three varieties of the Tripitakas you will have to study, and what is the content of each of these books, that you have to know. Then we come to Jatakas. Jatakas are, apart from the Tripitakas, the Jatakas also are an important sources of the Buddhist philosophy. And the Jatakas, there are about 550 Jataka tales which deal with the birth stories of Buddha in his previous incarnations of human and non-human. Okay, the incarnations of Lord Buddha in his previous life, in the animal human form or else the animal form, are all written in the stories in the Jatakas, where there are 550 Jataka tales, and they were included in the Buddhist literature with some changes. This was also written in the Pali language. They form the subjects of the sculpture in the railings of the famous stupas. Okay, so you will find in the Buddhist temples, which are called the stupas, in the relics and the structure, we find the Jataka tales engraved over there. So they become very important sources of the Buddhist culture. Now let us come into the doctrines of Buddha. The doctrine teachings of Buddha, or the main doctrines of Buddhism. The main doctrines of Buddhism, first is the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. This is very important. The Four Noble Truths which is preached by Lord Buddha was: the world is full of sorrows, desires are the main cause of the sorrows. One can get rid of the sorrow by killing desires, and desires can be killed by the Eightfold Path. And those Eightfold Pathas: right belief, right thought, right speech, right action, right living, right effort, right recollection, and right meditation. These Eightfold Paths are also called the middle path, as Buddha, as he was the one who condemned the life of pleasure. So in order to have achievements in life, you have to get rid of the sorrows, and for getting rid of the sorrows, you have to get rid of the desires. Okay, greed, desire, and all, by choosing the Eightfold Path. Second doctrine of Buddhism was non-violence. So like Mahavira, he also laid stress on non-violence towards all living beings. He believed that there should be no sacrifices, men should not kill or harm animals, and he preached love for all living beings. Then silence over the existence of God. Buddha was silent about the existence of God, or he never denied it. He said that the whole universe was controlled by dharma, which was a universal law. Okay, so he did not deny the existence of God, neither did he accept the existence of God straightforwardly. He just said that everything was being followed by the dharma. He did not have any faith in yagyas and animal sacrifices, because that was the faith of supremacy in the Vedas, and that gave more prevalence to the Brahmin culture, to the Brahmin caste. Okay, so he said that just giving sacrifices was just for seeking salvation, was useless. All these rituals and practicals was thus opposed by him. He did not have any faith in the caste system. He said that all men are equal, so there shouldn't be any kind of class distinctions among the people, and he believed that men should be distinguished on the basis of their qualities and not their caste. Then nirvana. According to Buddha, chief aim of man's life was to lead a noble life and attain ultimate salvation, which was called nirvana. Okay, so in order to attain nirvana, one should follow the righteous path. That is the ultimate way. Next, they come to the theory of karma. Buddha believed in the theory of karma, which was also similar like that of the Jainism, as Mahavira preached. And he said that it was eternal law that a man reaps the fruits of his deeds, and no one can escape the consequences. Next, stress on the righteous conduct. The Buddha stressed the importance of moral living. He paid more attention to purity of thought, word, and deed. His teachings were showing kindness to animals, telling the truth, avoid stealing, and immoral living, not to indulge in pleasure. So these were the different doctrines of Buddhism also. So this is the portions you have got to deal with, and you have got to study for your exams from this chapter. Okay, thank you everyone.